Titanfall 2, perhaps more than any other game released in October 2016, suffered horrendously from its release window being sandwiched between two of the biggest first-person shooter franchises in the known universe. That said, Titanfall 2 is by no means a bad game. But what if you wanted to make it one? Can you beat Titanfall 2 without entering a Titan? After an incredibly well done and intense opening cinematic that really makes you feel like you're a Titanfall 2, we're introduced to our nameless protagonist, named Jack Cooper, as he enters a simulation within what is effectively already a simulation. You've got all sorts of video game mechanics at your disposal here. You can run, you can fall, you can slide, and even use guns. Pretty neat stuff. Don't want to brag, but I completed the obstacle course in under a minute. Those names above me are cheaters, the ones below me are a bunch of bitches. I got the Halo number in my second attempt. Right when the Titan falled, we got pulled out of the simulation because war just arrived on our doorstep. A really dealy pilot rescued me from certain doom. I hid buried in the corpse of a destroyed plane, while the big guys traded blows. The obvious antagonist drank the blood of the man he just killed. I'm pretty sure that's what just happened. Feral poodles saw me as a tasty snack. I got rescued for the third time by a pilot, and the real game began. Task 1. Fix the Iron Giant, and relearn the basics of wall-running first-person shooter mechanics. I won't lie, the rabid armadillos almost killed me once. I also bopped a few people down into the drink. That's always fun. After a few more rather basic sequences, designed to get a below-average player accustomed to playing a video game, I acquired the Titanfall battery, stuck it in BT's battery sphincter, the big lad came back online, barely, and I was off on another fetch quest. Future technology requires thinking ahead and math, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that. BT 7274 needs another battery. Some nearby storm cloaks and their almost sentient paper planes were not thrilled about me borrowing the battery until further notice. Some story exposition happened as I parkoured around the ship, but nobody plays video games for the story. With BT back online, tragedy struck my life for the second time this week. I had to insert my entire meat envelope into BT's giant metal orifice in order to proceed. So, you cannot beat Titanfall 2 without entering a Titan, but you sure as can enter him as few times as possible. I tried to just do nothing as the red-eyed people barraged our frame with bullets in hopes that it would be like some on-rails section of a different game, where BT would take over if you fail, but that can't happen. You either kill all these people or you die. You also have to kill this Titan. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't think to just jump out of BT before the fight began. Either that or I tried and simply couldn't. Seeing as I can't remember, I'll take half the blame for that one. However, in the next mission, once I was tasked with running 84 make-believe units of measurement that serve no purpose to those of us living in the superior EST time zone, I departed from BT and continued on foot. I'll spoil the entire run right now. Pretty much any part of this game where you're facing Titans is the video game equivalent of a 2-foot-long sandpaper slug sliming its way into your brain through your nostrils. Here's why. For one thing, even the anti-Titan weapons you're given are Nerf guns at best. Like a Nerf gun, it might as well be nothing. That might have been an exaggeration. If I knew what that word meant, I could say for sure. Regardless, you're usually borderline defenseless against Titans when you're not in one yourself. And, to make matters worse, if they hit you once, that's it. You're now a pretty red mist marinating the ground with your soul. Did I say it got worse? Well, this is where it really gets worse. The floor is almost literally lava. It's toxic acid or some such nonsense. You can avoid it if you're careful and are good at platforming video games. There's also a handful of places where you can stop and conveniently refuel yourself with regular ammo and anti-Titan ammo. Next comes a little segment where you're separated from BT. Given the general idea behind this challenge, these parts of the game are effectively irrelevant. You're just playing the game as you normally would, which, in my case, is on the easiest difficulty. That said, it's not a cakewalk like Halo 2 on Legendary is. You're not some genetically altered superhuman. As someone who prides himself on knowing as little as possible about whatever he's talking about at any given moment, I can safely say that you're more on par with an ODST from Halo. That is to say, you're a pussy. With my body reunited with BT, the real game began in the form of a boss fight. Couple things to point out. 1. Boss fights can go f themselves. I, not expecting a boss fight in my first-person shooter, did not prepare at all for this. I had 2 rockets, 4 grenades, and a tickle gun. And because you're supposed to be in your Titan for this fight, there was no ammo to scavenge on the battlefield. The corpses are just for show. Alright, so you just sit back and let BT do the heavy lifting, right? Well, kinda. One of the many recurring annoyances of Titanfall 2 is that it is not a baby game like Dark Souls. BT can, and most likely will, be destroyed by the enemy titans after you've ran out of ammo. Let me just give you some numbers real quick. The first recording for this playthrough was 1 hour and 53 metric minutes. 46 of those minutes were spent on this boss fight. It was not easy at all. To save us both some time, I'll just go over my strategy from the run where I managed to win. But before I get to that, there's also this fun little section where you have to dip the little chips growing on your toes in the French onion acid before you get to the fight itself. I died before I got to the fight on many an occasion. On to the battle with Kane. The rocket launcher thing will be your ally. Each rocket can drain about 1 block from its health bar. Grenades will aid you in your pathetic pummeling attempt, and dropping a grenade in his breathing chute will help as well. But besides that, all you can really do is be as accurate as possible, not get stepped on, and hope that BT doesn't get destroyed. Once Kane died and I ripped his head off, BT and I took a shortcut through the wilderness to rendezvous with Captain Guy. Indoor areas with humans and the whatnot. Clearly, for someone like me who once had Meow Motors as his Twitter banner, this is not a real challenge, even without being able to spend time in BT. It got more easy not long after I wrote that last sentence, thanks to a couple titans that emerged from behind a loading door where they didn't exist until that door opened. 3 of them, all at once. Luckily for me, there was a fairly fair amount of anti-titan ammo in a nearby ammo repository. Doesn't do shit when you get whacked with a rocket though. BT had a potential new loadout after that little scuffle. Probably would have been beneficial to enter him, get the upgrade, swap him over to that loadout, then leave, but I ain't about to be a cheater. The next mission was even more of the same. Who'd have guessed that 2 back-to-back missions in a linear game would be similar? BT is off picking flowers or something, while I navigate my way through the multiplayer map, Conception and Birthing Field. It's a neat level. There's a fair amount of platforming, but it's just as I described earlier. You're playing the game normally. After escaping from the giant metal womb, I found myself somewhere between life and death, stuck in a new kind of hell, a training seminar. There are these little halfway titans that will f you up in a few seconds if you're stupid enough to let them, plus the cannon fodder littered around the landscape. I'd have continued that reference and turned it into a joke of some sort, but I couldn't think of anything. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The 4th mission, that's what this probably might be, is when BT and I got to make our grand escape. In addition to the miniature senile giraffes constantly trying to floss their teeth with my intestines, there are also reavers. Those b****s are the little titans, and of course, regular titans themselves. The first part was alright, not the hardest thing in the world. Lots of cover, adequate amounts of ammo, and we arrive at the second boss fight, this time with Ash. I really missed out on a lot by not playing Pokemon Sword and Shield. I have no idea why Ash is both a woman and dead now. Yeah, plot twist, this boss fight was easy. Probably because the more nimble the Titan, the less health they have. And having an almost Spartan laser didn't hurt either. Next up, Trial and Error, is supposedly the mission that takes this from being just another game to being something special. Our quest to meet up with Major Anderson led us to this facility where he'd become overly intimate with the structure of the building, which ultimately cost him his life. BT then analyzed his helmet, downloaded the latest version of Windows Movie Maker to play back the videogram. That's video and you know what, just f*** off. With our mission failed, BT turned to vandalism as a coping mechanism. Inside the building was where the real game began. These robots had their brains turned into cottage cheese. I saw me an opportunity, and by God did I take it. I never pass by an opportunity to beat something to death that's disabled or can't fight back. Also, daylight savings time is a motherfucker. That's what's happening here. Aggressive, fourth-dimensional arguments about time zones. Not like time travel or hallucinations or glimpses at alternate timelines. I'll give this mission one thing, it's a fun one, very creative. Being able to pop back and forth between time zones is an interesting gimmick. If you want anything more than that, go watch a f***ing review or something. This mission has me using my newfound ability to scour the building in search of information about some IMC super weapon capable of destroying entire planets. It turns out, in a shocking twist that I saw coming a mile away, that this super weapon, called the Fold weapon, is dependent on a power source called the Arc. If you caught my earlier references, you're probably just as disappointed as I was to learn that this is a goddamn Bible game. I suffered through a cavalcade of near-death experiences as I got closer and closer to the information I was after, until I eventually got to the prize and returned to BT, only to find him waist-deep in shit across the bridge, nearing the fold weapon prototype. Time itself stopped being a thing that was, and became a thing that currently would rather not. Believe it or not, I did manage to die here. Nevertheless, I touched the marble and fried my time travel watch. With knowledge of a world-destroying superweapon ingrained in the minds of me's everywhere, our next task was to alert the militia of this rather unfortunate news. The planet opted for poisonous electro gas rather than flaming acid, a smart choice, all things considered. After meeting up with everyone, I was sent on a suicide mission into the heart of the underground to retrieve an ARC tool to restore power to the building. It's mostly while running, jumping around, and dealing with automated security. With the tool, I took a new path back towards the group with my new Fig Newton gun. Einstein gun. I don't know. It's based on the guy who invented electricity. I used the tool to restore power in the weirdest way possible, jumped from rock to rock, got thrown by BT towards that one World at War DLC Pack 3 map. There are no Titans to contend with, but there are aircraft and reavers, which can be a problem if you die. Play with the crane, Mirror's Edge for a bit, send the automatons down into the abyss, move the big dish. Richter will become ever more angry, you won't care, and before you know it, you'll be reunited with BT and will be ready to scale the tower to install a power module for the dish. Fall, get inserted into the big metal man against your will, and return to the militia outpost, just in time for the third boss fight to begin. This just so happens to be where the real game begins. The problems here are the same as those from the first boss fight. You're outnumbered 3 to 1, I'm not counting me, and there's no ammo or weapons to scavenge off the ground. What you've got is what you've got. Better hope it ain't shit. Fun fact, it was the prospect of having to exert effort again that made me not touch this game for almost 3 months. The laser I've got did good damage against the minions, but Richter doesn't show up until they're dealt with. So you've gotta make a call. Do you let BT deal with the lesser titans and save your incredibly limited supply of ammo for Richter? Do you help with both fights a little bit, or do you leave BT to fight Victor by himself? I went with the fourth choice, which of course is just option 2 doubled and retrofitted with a bunch of nonsense. I helped in both fights, then used my laser to pretend like I was helping. I was the toddler playing whack-a-mole while Dad ran over gophers with his truck. In the end, the day was won, power was restored, the message got out, and Militia Chief Person Sarah Commanders led the big assault on the IMC. This mission right here, one of the worst experiences of my life. This is supposed to basically be the Titanfall 2 D-Day mission. I'm sure it would have been great if you were actually in a Titan, but I'm not, and that is unfortunate. I ran out of worthwhile ammo almost immediately. My rifle does do some damage, just not enough to make any meaningful difference when you're up against a dozen Titans. Here's the upside though. After a few minutes of nothing, Sarah made it to the gate, opened the up, and I ran inside, ready to take the fight to the IMC. There were peasants to beat to death for ammo and grenades. It was marvelous. I couldn't tell you how many Titans fell before me. Then I died. Despite making it well into the facility, I had to redo that entire assault on the base. It was here I figured out that sometimes the best course of action is to do nothing. If you sit behind cover, it'll only take about 7 minutes for the friendly Titans to clear the way to the building. I still died multiple times. One time I got whipped. Another time I ran too far ahead, and BT couldn't handle that. The pair bond between a big daddy and a little sister is a powerful thing. If there was ever a moment in this challenge to describe as a slog, it would be this. It took me almost an hour and a half to get to this lift platform. It's really not a fair comparison to make, but I'll make it anyway. Speedrunner Brian Ado got to that platform in about 2 minutes. After that pain, I made an executive decision to cheat a little. You'd normally use BT a lot and get new loadouts to be better equipped to handle new kinds of enemy titans. So I decided to enter him, pick up a new loadout, make him use it, then eject myself. I cheated, but I failed already, so get over it. If this bothers you, I would recommend you take your socks off now, because what I do in a bit is gonna knock him into f***ing orbit. Now, because BT is so fragile, I began employing a new tactic here. Sarah will not die, and friendly titans will spawn in as others are killed. Not to mention the fact that the loadout I just got for BT was better suited for medium to long range attacks. I sat back and didn't let him get caught in the middle of a firefight in fear of losing him again. my effectiveness in aiding my comrades was minuscule at best. But being small has its advantages. For example, I can limbo like nobody you've never seen. Despite our best efforts, the IMC ship eluded our grasp once more, which left us with only one course of action: go after them again. In the beginning, there was nothing, and a loading screen loomed silently over the TV. Then, suddenly, the rest of the mission appeared. A pretty fantastic backdrop exists throughout this mission that is not time sensitive in the slightest, despite the constant messages about needing to reach the finish line before Sonic ran out of rings. I'm gonna skip ahead a few minutes to when the real game began, because it's time for boss fight number 4. This went badly, very badly. For starters, I had no anti-Titan weapon. For another, there are 3 Titans to deal with, again, one of which is the boss, with the other 2 being on the tougher side of your average Titan. Even if I landed every shot from my weapons at my disposal on the damaging points of the 2 Scorch Titans, BT would not have enough health left to survive the fight against Viper. But when I reserved some ammo for Viper, leaving BT with even less health, I found that my weapons did jack shit against the flying bomb. It became apparent after only a few failures that there was simply no way for me to defeat this boss without piloting a Titan. In my best run, Viper's shields weren't even depleted by the time I died or BT was destroyed. I could have ran through the mission again and maybe saved any anti-Titan ammo I stumbled across for this particular fight, but I didn't remember seeing any. So, in addition to failing the challenge in a more real sense than I did earlier, I'm issuing a challenge of my own to everyone watching this. The first person to tweet me with footage of them beating this boss fight without a Titan with the hashtag Mitten Squad sucks will get a $150 gift card to the gaming platform or online retailer of their choice. In the off chance that your mind is too smooth to comprehend what I just said, I had to enter BT in order to beat this boss. But because I'm me, I still managed to fail. After the fight, BT and the pretty birdie got into a fight. I stuck a bullet inside the bird's parasitic overlord, entered the ship, shoved the marble inside BT, we are Groot, and the 2 of us woke up inside the torture chamber of the main bad guy. BT, in his infinite and unpredictable wisdom, handed over the marble, then he got. I ripped out his eyeball, parkoured with auto-aim, and emerged out into the final battlefield, where the new BT was sent down by Moses. Would it surprise you to know that this mission f***ing sucked too? It did, big time. It gets off on the wrong foot by requiring you to enter your new Titan in order to continue the mission. Whatever, not the end of the world. Jump in, then jump out. The real clusterfuck comes from the fact that this is the final mission. You're basically asked to one-man army your way through the entire mission until, spoiler alert, you reach the final boss. The airship in the distance will occasionally fire down missiles at the Titans, but it's not one of those times where you can just sit around doing nothing while you wait for the ship to eventually take out every enemy Titan. You've got to deal with them yourself, and there are a lot of them. And, surprise surprise, you only have access to a rifle and a few grenades here and there. You are more reliant on BT than usual. I tried blindly rushing towards the objective, but that led to a few conundrums, mainly in the form of checkpoints when BT was already badly damaged and also surrounded by several enemy Titans with nowhere to go. Foolishly, I thought restarting the mission would put me back to when I first found the freshly birthed BT. Had to do that indoor smart pistol section again. Wasn't as fun the second time. Eventually, after a series of unpleasant events, I thought to just tackle this like a slug would. In other words, go slow as shit. Again, I cheated by entering BT to swap him over to a longer range loadout. If you were wondering, the sock part I mentioned earlier wasn't this, but it worked alright for the most part. Taking it slow made this first section of the second third of this mission easier. Once I approached this gate was when things got worse than they already were. BT was in no condition to put in any effort towards keeping me alive as I ran around doing nothing. So my only hope was to rush this door as soon as it opened and not stop running until I got far enough away from BT that the enemy Titans despawned before they had a chance to tear him apart. After blowing apart a small army's worth of worthlessness, I reached the end, where the real game begins. The final boss fight with Sloan. Don't ask who that is, I couldn't tell you even if you let me Google it first. This was, without a doubt, the hardest boss fight yet, as it should be given the circumstances. The infinitesimally small silver lining is that I've got a rocket launcher in addition to grenades and a foam dart rifle. However, the missile launcher is worse than garbage. It was not uncommon for me to miss 5 out of 6 shots, but I'm confident that it was not my fault. There's only one other Titan besides the boss though, and I managed to destroy it a few times. But the severity of the threat that is Sloan is unmatched by anything else in the campaign. BT didn't even come close to standing a chance without me controlling him like Ratatouille in the movie Ratatouille. I've long since lost track of the number of times I've entered the Titan, but I feel confident in saying that this was probably the third time I really had to, maybe fifth. There was the first level, the beginning of this one, with BT's new frame, this boss fight, Viper, and I'm blanking on whatever the fifth thing is. Despite having the impressive power of a Titan on my side, this wasn't as easy as you'd think it'd be. Mostly because I got a checkpoint right as I leapt out of BT as the fight began after the cutscene. By the time I jump back inside and have control, most of my health is already gone. I consider this to be a fair handicap. At least I did, until I figured out on the last fight of the game that batteries restore BT's health. It's not like that would have done me any good anywhere else in the campaign. The length of this last confrontation confirmed my beliefs about this being impossible for someone with an IQ you can count on two hands. There are multiple waves of other Titans to deal with in addition to the main antagonist. In the end, Sloan was no more. Snuffle's leg will never be fixed. BT sacrificed himself to destroy the fold weapon. He threw me like the lawn dart I was always meant to be. I did the falling platform Warthog run and did not beat Titanfall 2 without entering a Titan. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.